Good evening. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order at this time. Our clerk will read the roll.
Bolden,
Aye.
Boys,
Aye.
Connor, Davis, DeShazier,
Present.
Fusco, Garrett,
Present.
Hannah,
Aye.
Kamer, Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Amobian, Somerville.
Aye.
We have all members present except for Councilman Kamer and Councilwoman Amobian.
At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand at this time as we are led in prayer by Pastor Cindy Peel of Eastwood Church of the Brethren. She's actually joining us via Zoom. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilman Bolden will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Dear God, we pray that you would send your blessing upon each and every person gathered here to do the work of the city. We thank you for those that have given their time and energy to this work. We pray that you would lead them and protect them and encourage them. And we pray that you would keep them safe, bless their families, and in all things, we pray that your will might be done. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections? Motion to approve. Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
The motion to approve the minutes passes 12-0.
At this time, we will move to our public comment period. All those who have signed up to participate, will you please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by our clerk?
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth? If so, please say, I do. Thank you.
Just going to ask when you hear your name that you approach the podium. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. And we are going to begin with Louise Johnson.
Good evening. Oh, my goodness. Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Louise Johnson, and I'm here to represent Business Training Capital Resource, which we have a urban farm in Ward 5, and we're so proud of what has happened thus far. But it seems like in the last year or so that we need the support of individuals in the community and of our council. We've been privileged to have the Secretary of State come, his advisor, speak to the community in reference to the things that we were doing, along with the EPA, the USDA. I mean, we've been overwhelmed with just individuals outside of the perimeter of Akron to assist us. Our biggest concern is this building. We have a building that sits at 700 Lafayette in Ward 5, and it's an eyesore, but not only that, it's harmful to the community. We have tried to reach out to sustainability to see how we can move forward to do something very positive for the community. We've added things that can change the ecosystem from pollinators, and we have a high tunnel that's been presented. We've actually created a area that will draw more pollinators and more things into the area to correct the whole system. But it seems like we're having a big major struggle in trying to make this happen. We want to thank the city of Akron from supporting us with the VIP program when we initiated this program, which we received funding from that. But it has not been enough to sustain us, and due to the fact of what's going on with this building, it's stopping us from being able to get the other resources that's available for that area. We have capital budget dollars that's over 300-something thousand that they're willing to invest. We have EPA that has come in. We've taken EPA classes. We've joined up with Central State. We've joined up with Akron U. We've done all of those things, but we've reached out to the city for the last year to get with sustainability. This is a sustainability city. We want to be part of how to sustain and how to make this a better place for people to live. From the studies and the things that we've done thus far, the EPA is saying that just a dime of the lead that comes from that building is causing an impact on every youth in that area. Continent, we're talking about disabilities, we're talking about things that is larger than what we could even imagine. We're talking about a dime can actually impact 2 football fields. We're talking about an open structure that's wide open. I'm not going to go much further. I just really wanted to introduce myself and the organization, and I have my other colleagues behind me because we only have 3 minutes.
And I'm so sorry, but you would have had to, each person has to sign up. So Ms. Johnson, you have spoken for your group. Yep.
That's okay. That's okay. I can go for it. So.
But unfortunately, your 3 minutes is up. But I thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you.
After the meeting, I'm going to ask that you get with your Ward 5 councilperson, Councilman Hannah, okay?
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you. Alicia? Is Alicia here? William Reynolds?
Council members, members of public, I'm here yet again to talk about the abuses of power both within the Akron establishment and outside. I'm going to speak on 3 topics that pertain to this. We pledge allegiance to a flag and end with liberty and justice for all. When I was a child, the police and fire personnel were heroes to me. I did not fear them. Now, as an adult, I am afraid of the police and the life and liberty that they can take away with the help of others who just enable them to abuse their power. I once heard the quote, "Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And authority that does not exist for liberty is not authority, but force." There's far too much force in this city. Last week, I saw FOP President Brian Lucy come up to this microphone and badmouth several people that have been outspoken about how the police treat the poor and the black community. I understand that the purpose of the union is to protect its members. Their duty as police are to serve and protect. What I hear Brian Lucy say is, we will forget about serve and protect the community. We will just protect our members even when they are wrong. There have been several occasions in the last few years that I saw the Akron police do unconscionable and unethical things that should make any decent human being quiver. I'm calling on the good police that are within Akron PD to stand up publicly and take a stand against these abuses of power. You will have the citizens stand by you and protect you from retaliation. I'm telling Brian Lucy, if you don't actually want to fix things, stop trying to incite people, shut the hell up, and go to some other area and abuse their citizens. The second abuse of power is within the nuisance compliance department. These employees are creating interpretations of laws just to steal people's stuff. Let's see, in the last 4 years, I have had several outdoor carpets stolen that were not in disrepair. I have had 5 grills stolen that were perfectly functional, not rusted or damaged. I understand that they have a duty to enforce several laws within Akron. However, they are regularly overstepping this, and this has to stop. A citizen should not have to pay to appeal a notice given that is not supported by the law. It truly is like the Wild West out there. If I were in charge of the department and was presented with proof of these knuckleheads crossing the line, I would be terribly embarrassed. If these abuses are not actually dealt with, I say the deputy mayor of this area is not doing his job. Unfortunately, I won't get to my third part.
Ms. Reynolds, thank you so much for sharing. Dr. Dalla?
Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm here to ask. I don't want to beg. I'm tired of begging. I've sent you information for 6 months, and I've talked to you guys about the NECBA resolution and remembrance program that we've had. You have all the information. I've talked to Margot, and Margot's met with us when we had the ceasefire resolution, and we talked about how there needs to be more education, and we were promised more education. I talked to Councilman Fusco. He agreed at that time. He even read the book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, recently, and if he doesn't know the history by now, and if he doesn't think that there needs to be more information on this, then God help us all. We had to do things on our own. We had a lecture given by a former Israeli soldier whose father was an Israeli general during the 48 and 67 wars, who talked about the atrocities against the Palestinian people. We had over 250 people there to listen. They wanted to learn more about this. I was fortunate to go to the anti-Semitism and Holocaust lecture a few days before that at the same venue, and I was among 20 people there listening and learning. And I don't know the whole history of the Holocaust, but I'm willing to learn. And I thought it was a very good event. However, the one thing that event had was that event had the backing of the city. But my Palestinian community cannot get the backing of the city. We don't want anything more than that remembrance. We don't want anything more than that event. But we think we deserve the same as that event. And what's happening now, as a result of not having this education, is an ongoing ethnic cleansing and genocide of our people. This is what happened when people ignored what was going on in Europe. And this should serve as a supplement to what the educational program is. Why do I have to come up here like this every time when we were promised an educational program? And I'm asking, especially Councilman Somerville and Councilman Fusco, please stand up and relay to us why we have not been granted this program or the support of this program, knowing what you know, knowing what we've told you, knowing that you guys are very intelligent people and now you know the history. Why won't you proceed and support us with this program with the same fervor that you've supported the other program? If you can't support this program, why are you even supporting the other program? It would be very hypocritical. And I'm not saying you shouldn't support that other program. It's a wonderful program. But for the same reason I'm saying you should support that program, you should support this program. So please don't let me leave here without hearing why, after all this time, you guys have not gone through with this. I provided you with I had to do the work. I had to provide with a draft of a resolution. I gave you all the information on the NECBA. You've had 6 months if you want to look at it and research it more. What more do you want from me?
Thank you, Dr. Jala, for sharing. Audrey?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Audrey Tessie. So for the next couple minutes, I wanted to share a few reasons why I believe that there should be a resolution for Nakba Remembrance Day, along with an educational program dedicated to the remembrance of the 1948 Nakba, and how these are very essential for the community. It's not only for understanding history, but also for fostering empathy and awareness in our communities. So the Nakba in 1948, or otherwise known as the catastrophe, does mark the forced displacement of over 700,000 Palestinians, the killing of tens of thousands of Palestinians, and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, which persists to this day. It's an event that has reshaped generations of Palestinians and have left enduring scars that have persisted in the form of widespread loss, oppression, and statelessness. Yet for so many, this chapter of history does remain a very distant or, in fact, a misunderstood concept. So by establishing an educational program that delves into the Nakba, we are creating a space for people to connect with the complex reality of Palestinian history, culture, and resilience. So such a program would serve not just as a simple recounting of events, but as a bridge for understanding the ongoing impact of displacement, segregation, and loss of identity. I had the great opportunity to attend this deeply moving panel discussion that Dr. Jadala was referring to last weekend that reinforced this need. This conversation, which featured Dr. Jadala, CSU professor Dr. Nazer, and activist Mika Peled. Each speaker shed light on the multiple layers of oppression and marginalization that has continued to affect Palestinians to this day. They offered a very historical lens, grounding us in the significance of the Nakba and how it set the stage for current struggles. They shared invaluable perspectives from the extensive advocacy and philanthropic work centered on justice for Palestinians and challenged us to confront the realities of life under occupation with a sense of urgency and moral responsibility. This discussion was super informative, eye-opening, and a huge call to action. So as we consider establishing an educational program on the Nakba, we should remember the education that fosters empathy, dismantles ignorance, and compels us toward change. Through this, we can honor those impacted by the Nakba and stand in solidarity with everyone who seeks dignity and justice. Thank you.
Audrey, thank you so much for sharing. And I apologize if I mispronounced the name. Tessie? Wonderful. And you are already getting up because you know that you are, and so please come to the mic and tell me how to pronounce your name. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ishai Mishal. I'm from Ward 4 and a member of the Akron Jewish community. Members of the council, as a member of the Akron Jewish community, I deeply appreciate the commitment the city has shown in commemorating the Holocaust, one of the darkest chapters in human history. We often say the words "never again," but if we truly mean those words, they must compel us to a deeper understanding of all forms of suffering, displacement, and human tragedy. To ensure that never again is more than just a slogan, we must educate ourselves not only about the Holocaust, but about the broader patterns of violence, persecution, and dehumanization that lead to such horrors. Genocide and mass displacement do not happen in a vacuum. They happen when a society is conditioned to view a group of people as other, when nationalism, fear, and propaganda convince a nation that it is under existential threat from an enemy that must be eliminated. We have seen these patterns repeat across history, and while history may not repeat exactly, it certainly rhymes. Here in Akron, there are members of our community whose families have experienced profound loss and displacement. They too were otherized, their homes seized, their families torn apart. I am speaking of those whose lives were uprooted in what they refer to as the Nakba, a time of deep tragedy and loss for the Palestinian people. Just as we honor the victims of the Holocaust, we must also give space for other voices of pain and resilience, particularly when they arise from histories of mass displacement and dehumanization. In fact, one of the most eye-opening experiences I've had recently was attending an event at the Akron Public Library, where speakers like Miko Peled, the son of a well-known general, shared their perspectives. Hearing from individuals like him has helped me recognize the deep complexity and humanity in these stories. This is about understanding that never again applies to all of humanity. The choice before us is not just about recognizing one group's trauma over others. It's about whether we as a community stand with the oppressed no matter who they are, and whether we will recognize the suffering of all people regardless of their nationality or faith. By choosing to commemorate the Nakba alongside the Holocaust, we affirm that Akron stands for human dignity, justice, and truth. We show that we are committed to learning the full history of human suffering and preventing such atrocities from happening again. The choice is clear. We can honor the memory of the dead, give voice to the grieving, and demonstrate that never again truly means what it says, or we can close our eyes and stand with denial and indifference. I urge you, as representatives of this city, to make the right choice, one that upholds the values of empathy, justice, and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Caitlin?
Hello, My name is Caitlin Berry, and I am a student at Kent State University. I am also a proud Jewish woman. I'm here today to talk about the importance and significance of implementing a Nekba Education and Remembrance Day. I would be lying to you if I said I grew up in a religious household. My mother taught my siblings and I stories from the Bible and left it to us to decide what we would like to do with them. It wasn't about until 4th grade when I was taught about the Holocaust, in which I was able to reconnect and learn about my Jewish roots. This education aided me in learning why my mother's family came to this country and how much culture was lost from fleeing an abusive regime. It is with this information I ask you to think about the 1 million Palestinians who have had to flee their homes, along with the various libraries, universities, and places of worship that have been destroyed in Gaza and the West Bank. Immigration is one of the largest reasons for a loss of culture, as immigrants often have to assimilate into their new communities. This makes needing a Nekba Remembrance Day all the more important for the Palestinian community and Americans as a whole. No one is an expert on the Nakba besides the Palestinians who have firsthand experience with how this tragedy has impacted their family for generations. I ask that you implement a Nekba Education and Memorial Day for these reasons, and that never again must mean never again for anyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Harrington Hargrove.
Good evening, Council. Harrington Hargrove, 1008 Laurel Avenue, Akron, 44307, Ward 3. And this letter that I was passing around, I wrote that today, and I addressed it to the mayor. But this is the concerns of the residents in Ward 3. The city of Akron passed an $815 million budget. I would like to know how much of this budget will go to rebuilding the Black community. The city of Akron received $145 million of American Rescue money in 21. But the Black community in Ward 3 has not been able to sit at the table of opportunity for these funds. The city of Akron has excluded the Black communities of millions of dollars of economic development opportunities. The city has been found guilty of redlining the Black community of opportunities, yet the city of Akron still refused to allocate funding for us. My opinion, we need the federal government to come investigate the crimes against our community. The Black community in Ward 3 has not received any funding. This is a disgrace to the Black community. And then the Elevate Akron study goal was to ensure that the Akron's Black population is positioned to engage in and share the benefits of regional growth and prosperity. November 1st, 2018. One of the most striking findings involving the Black community being excluded from economic opportunity. The Elevate Akron study finds that Akron has one of the steepest decline in Black earnings. This can be corrected if we can find a way to create more jobs for the people that may not otherwise have access to them in certain parts of the city. And my community in Ward 3 is one of those certain parts. I've been standing for this council for 40 years asking for Ward 3. We haven't had a new minority business with city assistance down there in 40 years. It may be one or two, but I don't know where they are because I haven't seen them and I live down there. And so my question to this body, why not? Why do you continue to put a rope around our neck? You know our community plight. All of you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. Reverend John Beatty.
Madam President and members of the council, John Beatty, 2047 Wyndham Road, Akron. I come to you strangely calm, because I don't know what I'm going to say. The reason why I felt the need to talk tonight was seeing a picture of our police union president speaking about who would listen to a Reverend Ray Green. And immediately I knew a lot about our president of our police union. I know who he's going to vote for. I know a lot about how he feels about the black community. Reverend Green needs to be listened to, especially by us white people. I had the privilege of riding in the bus next to a gentleman, a citizen, a businessman in our community who had lost his brother because the brother had asked his wife to call the police after someone had shot up his house on Thanksgiving night. When he and his teenage son went out to help the police, by the time they got to the end of Salina Avenue and Thornton, the police rolled up. And before he knew it, he and his brother was forced to lie face down on the sidewalk, and he was shot 21 times. The police in our organization is the only service department called to protect and serve the citizens, have absolute immunity to kill with no, sometimes even known, kept unknown, their names. I'm so glad that the city has paid $4.5 million, or has agreed to do that, for the mother of Jalen Walker. It won't take him back. But the attitudes and the problems, the othering, especially by the president of the police union, has got to stop. Just as
Reverend
we
Payne,
got to
I'm
stop.
so sorry, but your time is up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, though. Janos, are you online with us? Can you hear me? There you go.
Yes, I can, I can hear you all.
Okay, you can begin.
All right. Evening, Council. I have come here tonight to address the lack of accountability surrounding Officer Shoemaker and his unlawful kidnapping of De'Ara Fields. Yeah, you heard that right. De'Ara Fields was kidnapped in January by Officer Shoemaker. The police entered into her home claiming to investigate a family argument. I lived in an argumentative home in Akron for 12 years. Not one investigation, and my parents were only arrested when there was proof that harm had been done by one parent to the other. So I'd love to see how the APD justified investigating a family argument and body slamming a woman in her own home while wrongfully arresting her. Let's define kidnapping, shall we? According to Oxford Languages, kidnapping is the action of abducting someone and holding them captive. De'Ara Fields was abducted and held captive in broad daylight. And Mayor Malik ain't going to hold the police accountable for it. He trusts the judgment of Police Chief Brian Harding, a man who everyone warned him about hiring. He won't hold Officer Shoemaker accountable. He won't fire Brian Harding. And you can forget about holding the APD accountable. This is the semblance of change and progress. And all this council can do is yak about procedures. De'Ara Fields' charges are bullshit. That's why the jury saw through the smoke and declared her innocent. Auditor Anthony Finnell called for disciplinary action against Shoemaker. The fact that he isn't sharing prison with Jeffrey Parker is criminal. What's the point of justice in Akron if its enforcers include murderers, kidnappers, terrorists, and child predators. Akron, your officers just let a Firestone CLC student in handcuffs through the school's metal cars in Highland Square last week, speeding through a bar district for no reason and without sirens. No one in these chambers will hold these terrorists accountable. I'm done with this government. If your name ain't Eric Garrett and you are in this government as a council member, policeman, or member of Malik's cabinet, your resignation is pending. We need actual people here, not robots talking. Justice for De'Ara Fields, commemorate Nakba Day, abolish the APD, and may this council and Mayor Malik resign immediately. Also, may Brian Lucey stop going to council to act like a terrorist in a city he doesn't even live in. Justice for De'Ara Fields.
That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We want to thank all of those who participated. Council, before you is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
The consent agenda passes 12-0.
We'll now move to old business, planning and economic development. Councilman Fusco.
Thank you. On the first item, we'd recommend favorable. This is the gentleman who owns a property at 1395 Superior Avenue and had requested that we go visit. Many council members did drive by. A few of us even stopped by and spoke to him. He's requesting a second driveway. We're hoping, we've implored the planning department to have a discussion with the traffic engineer referencing the Superior Avenue. As you know, Council President, that's your district. There's been quite a few accidents, and speeders that's a speedway. You just have to stand there and you can see it. And it's not a safe situation for the owner of that property. So with all that, we recommend approval this evening. Thanks.
Thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Explain anything, did I?
The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0.
Councilman Fusco.
File 2. Time on the balance.
Time will be granted. That concludes our old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1, offered by Councilwoman Amobian and Councilman Bolden. Resolution urging support for Issue 27, the 1.29 mils bond issue for rebuilding North High School, and the 7.6 mils operating levy proposal for operating programs, services, and facilities of the Akron Public Schools, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick.
The committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
I will yield to the two sponsors.
As I indicated last Monday, we have always supported Akron schools, levies, and any other initiatives they have been involved in. So we are in strong support of issue 27. We know that this issue is to build a new North High School, and also to help with the operational expenses of the school system. One of the things I think we need to realize is that Akron hasn't come to the citizens of Akron in 12 years to ask for support, which is unheard of. And I'm hoping that we can do this as mayor and council as a whole. And in addition to that, I will defer to Mr. Bolden in a minute. In addition to that, I read another article today in which Akron is number 8 on a list of U.S. cities where the area is affordable in housing and food and other items. So in addition to being a strong supporter of our schools, in which we really need strong schools to have an affordable community, we are listed nationwide as number 8 on a list of cities where the living is affordable. So I think that deserves some kudos. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, a product of Akron Public Schools. I think a lot of us are here too. And as Councilman Obiam said, there hasn't been a levy on the ballot for 12 years now. That's a long time. Now, the interesting thing is taxes have gone up. Our property taxes have gone up. But the amount that the school gets does not go up exponentially. The amount they get is the same. So it stays the same for 12 years. Some interesting facts about the Akron Public Schools is I'm a strong believer in what was just said. Strong schools make a strong city. We've got some of these things that we've got a great place to live. We all know it. And we want to keep our schools strong so we can bring people in. Graduation rates at Akron Public School, 87.7% of our kids graduate in 4 years out of the Akron Public Schools. Operate 46 buildings with over close to 20,000 students. We've got 50 different languages spoken in our schools. And that's because of the influx of some folks that have moved into, especially into the North Hill area, where it's my alma mater, so it's a little bit personal there. But the funny thing is it hasn't changed much. North High has not changed much since I was there 40-some years ago. It needs to be upgraded. That is where our community is growing, and we need to make sure that those kids are not bussed throughout every other and overloading other schools. The other thing I want to mention is Akron Public Schools employs nearly 40,000 teaching and non-teaching folks. This is tax dollars that come into our city. It's imperative that we vote for this, and I hope we can do, as it was mentioned, Mayor's Council as a whole.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other comments at this time? If not, Councilwoman Amobian, do you want to make the motion?
I move that we suspend the rules with a favorable report. Thank you.
Do you want to do mayor and council as a whole?
Oh, and mayor and council as a whole. I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This resolution passes 12-0. Item number 2, offered by Lombardo, ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with systems and software without the formality of publicly advertising for bids for support and maintenance of billing software in 2024 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 3, offered by Lombardo, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, accept and expend the Cities for Financial Empowerment Small Business Boost Phase 2 grant in collaboration with the United Way Summit and Medina Financial Empowerment Center and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 4, offered by Lombardo, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee without the formality of publicly advertising for bids to enter into contracts with various providers for the City of Akron's health insurance programs as set forth in Exhibit A and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, this is for the city's employee benefits for the year.
Thank
And
you.
it includes providers, Medical Mutual, and WEX.
Okay. Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 5, offered by Lombardo, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Minority Behavioral Health Group for the purpose of hiring personnel for the Street Team Pilot Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo,
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. This is an 18-month contract for the purpose of hiring personnel for the Street Team Pilot Program.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 6, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a dual-use cannabis dispensary at 46 South Summit Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Refer.
This item will be referred.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a storage building at 123 East Waterloo Road and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Per.
This item will be referred.
Item number 8, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to retain a fence at 217 Acres Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Per.
This item will be referred.
Item number 9, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a dual-use cannabis cultivation facility at 1076 Home Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Per.
This item will also be referred.
Item number 10, offered by Fusco, ordinance accepting a dedication plat for Nafee Boulevard and Patrick Way and a partial vacation plat for Nafee Boulevard and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 11, offered by Fusco, ordinance accepting a vacation plat for a portion of Ravine Street between West North Street and Tarbell Street and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 12, offered by Fusco, ordinance accepting a vacation plat for Bloom Court and a portion of an unnamed alley east of Bloom Court and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 13, offered by Fusco, resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Mayor Malik of Valerie Moss to the vacant Commercial or Industrial Building Appeals Board for a term ending of 3 years and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 14, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, accept and expend the State of Ohio capital budget one-time strategic community investment grant and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 15, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Greater Akron Chamber Foundation to provide matching funds for the State of Ohio Innovation Hub Grant Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
The request of the committee is for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. In 2023, the State of Ohio appropriated about $125 million to the Ohio Department of Development Fund for the Ohio Innovation Hub program. And what we're asking council to do is support that program. What the local match, this is not going to be our match, but the local match will be $10,400,000. Right now, I believe what we're asking for is $200,000. Is that correct?
It's $750,000.
Oh, over a 3-year time frame. I was going to say for this year.
$200,000 this year, and then $550,000 over the next 3 years.
$200,000 in this legislation, but over the next 3 years, it would equal $750,000. What that does is going to be matched with other entities, the University of Akron. It's going to be matched with the Summit County, and of course ourselves, and I believe it's 31 other companies approximately are going to be involved in this. And the goal is that these companies and the state of Ohio, this is federal funds, by the way. The scope of the program is the polymer industry clusters innovation priorities fit into 5 categories. That's mobility, healthcare, semiconductors, industrial materials, and energy. And this is, of course, the polymer industry clusters, what we're talking about here. The total amount of spending over the next several years is $100 million. And there's a piece here that I think is important that we received today. I'd like for everyone to be aware. The 10-year goal, 6,300 direct jobs created or retained, 1.8 billion private investment, catalyzed 3.9 million tons of CO2 reduction annually. So those are the goals for the next 10 years. The administration had come to leadership a couple of months ago and asked us to, we had a commitment, we had to re-up a bit more on that. And for us, I think it was a no-brainer. These are federal funds being filtered into the state and then to us. And this is our opportunity. It's the next phase, if you will. Of course, the University of Akron is a natural because of their polymer program. And Akron, we're in a position right here to partner with many, as we always do. Northeast Ohio is known for our partnerships and working together with other entities to be successful, especially on the economic development piece. So with that, we strongly recommend that we approve this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 16, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title 15 Land Usage, Chapter 154 Vacant Commercial or Industrial Buildings, Section 154.10 Vacant Building Maintenance Standards of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Refer.
This item will be referred.
Item number 17, offered by Fusco, ordinance amending and/or supplementing Title 19 Building Code, Chapter 190 General Provisions, Section 190.102 Superintendent of Building Inspection, and 190.106 Right of Entry of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Committees for suspension of the rules of the favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, a number of years ago, the City of Akron wrote an agreement with the county for services for our building inspection. However, we've retained the CBO piece, which is the Chief Building Officer. And in essence, what this would do is previously we had a retirement. As a result of that retirement, now we're going to provide this to Mr. Luddle, the Service Director, or his designee. And what it requires is that they serve at the direction of the service director, but we must ensure that that person that he would appoint would have a minimum of 5 years training, 5 years experience in construction management, construction design, and/or code enforcement. And so with that, we recommend approval this evening. And this is primarily focused around those buildings that are dilapidated, that we have, and that would be declared an emergency to take down. So with that, we recommend approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
This ordinance passes 12-0. Item number 18, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids, requesting and receiving requests for qualifications for professional engineering services, for PLC programming services to maintain the city's iFix SCADA system and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 19, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Sorrento Acquisition LLC, doing business as Royce U.S. Protection LLC, to finance the remaining term of the current security-related services contract between Royce and the city and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 20, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids or requesting and receiving requests for qualifications for professional engineering services for instrumentation, controls, and SCADA system support for the Water Supply and Water Reclamation Bureaus and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 21, offered by McKittrick, ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with USG Water Solutions for professional engineering and maintenance services for the next 5 years of the Water Storage Tank Asset Management Program and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 22, offered by McKittrick. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to file applications and enter into a contract or contracts with the Ohio Water Development Authority for planning, design, and/or construction of 2 City of Akron Water Supply Bureau capital projects for a total of $1.2 million and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 23, offered by McKittrick. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to file applications and enter into a contract or contracts with the Water Supply Revolving Loan Account with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and with the Ohio Water Development Authority for planning, design, and/or construction of 8 City of Akron Water Supply Bureau projects for a total of $79.7 million and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will also be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 24, offered by McKittrick. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Core and Main for purchasing material to complete curb meter pit installations in support of the Fixed Network Advanced Metering Infrastructure Project and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
Consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 25, offered by McKittrick. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Farber Specialty Vehicles for the purchase of a mobile command vehicle and declaring an emergency.
Councilman McKittrick?
The wishes of the committee are time.
Okay. Time will be granted. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We'll now move into our committee assignments. Rules, Councilman McKittrick.
2 p.m.
Public Safety, Councilman McKittrick.
2:15.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Lombardo.
3 p.m.
Parks and Recreation, Councilwoman Connor. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco. Public Service, Councilman McKittrick.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilwoman Davis?
Thank you, Madam President. I've been on this council for about 10 months now, I believe, and I've witnessed members of the Palestinian community come down almost every Monday. I don't know the full history of the Gaza and the Palestinians, but I do know that they are human beings, okay? And they just want to be heard. And some people may think I'm out of line for this comment. You know, when you get my age, you really don't care about being out of line. You just state what you have to say. This body and this administration owes it to them to be heard. I don't know where we're going with this or what the outcome would be, but it's just the right thing to do to hear them out. I don't know the history. I heard something about legislation that had gotten started. I'm not sure of that. Let's just do the right thing and hear them out. Wouldn't you say that's fair? I have a History Month. I'm an African American woman. We have Black History Month. And we continue to talk about inclusiveness and diversity. Let's show it, not just continue to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Davis. I do want to just say for the record that this body has been committed to hearing from the Palestinian community. We, and Dr. Dadala will attest to this, we had series of meetings where we brought in the Palestinian community and the Jewish community to work on a resolution that was presented before this council and voted on. And so we know that there's still more work to be done. There also was a meeting, and I want to address Dr. Jahala, that made some comments about some promises that were made. I was on the call with you. The promise didn't come from me, but there was a conversation and a commitment initially from the mayor to do just that. Okay, so we know that there still needs to be more work to be done, but I do want to just make it very clear for the record, this body has done a lot to make sure that we hear from the Palestinian community, and not just the Palestinian community, but also working with the Jewish community as well.
And that's good, and I appreciate that, but I wasn't aware of that. So I think that these things we need to share amongst each other. I'm just simply stating that, you know, it's human decency to hear from people. And that, to me, is just the right thing to do. I appreciate what you said, and I'll look into it a little bit more because I had no knowledge of that. So what I don't know, I can't speak on. Thank you.
For council, Councilman Lombardo, before we move there, thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to share a piece of good news. Found this story, and I just wanted to share it with everybody. Representatives from the Cleveland Clinic, Akron General, presented a life-saving award to Officer Alexander Shepley for his actions on September 18th. Officer Shepley responded to a shooting, and upon his arrival, he found a male shot in the leg and quickly applied a tourniquet. When the victim arrived at the hospital, this is long story short, the medical staff determined that Officer Shepley's tourniquet application saved the victim's life. So I just wanted to share that. Don't know if those types of stories get in the newspaper, but they're said now, and we appreciate, of course, Officer Shepley and all of the Akron Police Department for what they do for us every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman, for sharing. I think we had a motion. Councilman Fusco? Did you have a motion? We have a motion to adjourn. No objections. Meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.